Ready, sir? In 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, Clerk of the Board Amy Davis. It is 2:02 p.m., calling this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Mejia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now looking for a motion to approve the agenda for today, Tuesday, February 9th.
Yes, I would move to approve the Tuesday, February 9th, 2021 agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Is there a motion regarding board meeting minutes from January 26th?
Yes, I would move to approve the board meeting minutes from January 26th, 2021.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Board meeting minutes are approved. Motion carries for January 26, 2021. Next on our agenda is a presentation regarding a proclamation for African American History Month.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a yearly event in which the board has the opportunity to declare the month of February as the African American History Month. On the normal circumstances, we have members of our African American community in Thurston County to attend and receive this proclamation. Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to have them come and be present on this presentation. However, I believe there's a great opportunity for the board to read this proclamation and express each individual commissioners your commitment for African American Month, which is February 2021.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think we can just go ahead and read the proclamation, and if the board have any comments, we can do it after that moment.
I guess prior to reading this proclamation, I would mention that Mr. Bush came here in the 1850s and has been, so the Black Americans have been very instrumental in the formation and development of Thurston County, and thus became the state capital. So enough said on that, and I'll refer to the proclamation for this Board of County Commissioners. Whereas during African American History Month, many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our cultural, spiritual, political, and economic development are celebrated. And whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of African Americans in our country's history, advance the cause of civil rights, and strengthen families, communities, and the nation. And whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a noted scholar and son of former slaves, found the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And that, although there's not an acronym, there are initials, ASALH, and initiated Negro History Week in 1926. And whereas the first kidnapped Africans were brought to this country 400 years ago, beginning legalized slavery that lasted for 250 years until the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Whereas, through determination and perseverance against all odds, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to our country, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, the military, sports, and the arts. And whereas ASALH's 2021 theme, The Black Family, Representation, Identity, and Diversity, offers a rich tapestry of images of exploring the African American past and present. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims February 2021 as African American History Month in Thurston County, and encourages all citizens to recognize the continued need to battle racism and to build a more just, peaceful, and prosperous society for all. Adopted this second day of February 2021. Your Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any additional comments from the board? Commissioner Mejia or Fredway?
I mean, we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to issues of race, and I was very excited that one of our own here in Thurston, Merritt Long, published his book, and I'm very excited. I was able to finally get it, and I'm very excited to finally read it about his experience. So I'm very excited about this month. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards, you already made a few comments. Did you have anything else?
Nope, been here all along, and I anticipate continued participation at the highest levels. Thank you.
I'd just like to highlight a couple of things the county's been working on in recent weeks and months. We uncovered something that I guess is all around the state, which is discriminatory language in flats, subdivision flats. And there's actually a bill in front of the legislature to have affirmative outreach by the counties. And I don't know if that bill is going to pass, but our county auditor has already been taking those steps. Regardless of the state, the fate of the state legislative, bill, our county auditor has been reaching out to people in order to get them to use the processes in place. And the board passed a resolution just within the last couple of weeks regarding those. State law already makes them illegal, but we wanted to do a further recognition and kind of disavowal by the board, as well as the affirmative action of the county auditor, which is a more of a public outreach component. So that's something you may not have heard about, but it's very unfortunate, and we wanted to address it in the way we could. We've also been working on working through the elements of an action plan regarding racial equity. The board has been working through that during the fall, and we just had a follow-up session on January 29th at our planning session, devoting significant time to talking through the different elements, and that should be something that comes before the board for adoption. I'm hoping, very shortly, within a month or so. So anyway, this is an important proclamation, and I appreciate Commissioner for reading that through. Okay, let's go to item number one, what's designated as number one on the agenda, which is opportunity for the public to address the board. It appears we have a significant number of people who would like to address the board. I do not have any, I can't see the boardroom. I have not been provided a list of anyone in the boardroom. County Manager, is there someone in the boardroom that is physically going to?
Commissioner, the boardroom is closed for public access at this point.
That's right.
So everything is virtual public testimony.
Right. We've gone back and forth here in the last couple of weeks, or last month on that. Okay, so I'm going to have the county manager then. It sounds like we'll do the Zoom, folks, and if there's anyone on the conference call, they'll be at the end of that. The county manager will walk through each person. Let me say some preliminary comments that will apply to all of the public comments. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes comment from the public at all meetings. However, there are some guidelines to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. When you're called, please introduce yourself, including the area of the county in which you reside. Please address the board, not the staff or anyone else in the audience. Please silence your cell phones. The board does not respond directly to comments, but the county manager may respond on an as-needed basis to specific comments that are made at subsequent and later meetings. Speakers are limited to a total of 3 minutes to address the board, and you may not donate any portion of your time to another speaker. The board reserves the right to restrict the person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. No comments that are lewd and offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful with your public comment. No outbursts of any kind from the folks who are in the virtual boardroom. Please keep yourself muted until your opportunity to speak is identified by the county manager. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. All materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of the RCW. Remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal are not appropriate. So with all of that, we're going to go to the Zoom, and the county manager will walk through, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like, and unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes. And then, Ramiro, how will we?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I just
will not be able to monitor the clock.
We'll monitor the clock, and I will go in the order that I have on my screen. So when I call your name, please unmute yourself and reveal your video. Until then, please continue to mute yourself and continue to block your video until I call your name, please. And again, this is not in the order you have joined the Zoom. This is in the order that I have listed on the screen here in the boardroom. First on the screen, I have Mr. Wayne Olsen. Please unmute yourself, reveal your video if you like. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Olsen, and I am one of 129 Panorama residents who added their names to a petition urging your support for Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, or TCMP. I had forwarded the petition to each of you in early January. I am very thankful and heartened by your actions thus far with the TCMP, and understand that you intend to vote yes for all 3 resolutions today. That is really terrific and a great start. TCMP provides an excellent framework of what we can do to reduce or even avoid the worst of climate change effects. But the hardest work is still ahead of us to truly implement the plan. You have undoubtedly heard the laundry list of climate-related catastrophes that face us if we do not take action. I will not repeat them. As a retired Navy oceanographer and later teaching ocean and atmospheric science courses, including climate change at Pierce College, I find the evidence is overwhelming to validate the scientists' conclusions. From the newest generation of climate models, the scientists are now estimating that we will cross over the first danger line in the sand, which is global temperature increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius between the years 2026 and 2034, if we continue the same rate of carbon emissions. Most concerning, they estimate that we'll pass through the no-go line of 2.0 Celsius global temperature increase between the 2040s and 2070s. That is a level at which scientists expect we will begin to suffer the most adverse effects of climate change. Thus, what we do collectively as inhabitants of this earth in the next 10 years will determine the future of our grandkids. Within 10 years, we must reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by nearly half, and by 2050, we must be near full transition to a renewable energy economy. By comparison, we probably will not solve our local homeless emergency in less than 10 years, but homelessness and food shortages will eventually become a whole lot worse if we don't meet our carbon reduction goal in that same time frame. Thus, I urge you to call it a climate emergency. We have the tools now to succeed, and a transformation of our energy sources is getting underway. But with our current political divide, I fear that we will end up doing too little, too late, and too fragmented, and then we all will lose, including our grandkids. This is another reason for my recommendation that you, as our leaders, modify the resolution before you today and declare a climate emergency as loudly and as frequently as you can as our leaders. I sent an email to you yesterday containing graphics, references, and additional details supplementing what I have said today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Ms. Lynn Fitzpatrick. Please unmute yourself, relive your video, if you like. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Lynn Fitzpatrick. I live in Olympia and I work for Thurston Climate Action Team. I stand before you as not one person, but as one of 469 people who signed a petition to you in favor of this climate mitigation plan and our 1,000 members who hold deep concern for the climate emergency facing us. We are deeply grateful for the 2 years of work that has gotten us to this moment of being about to pass the plan, the declaration, and the ILA. I do respectfully request that you change the name of the declaration back to Climate Emergency Declaration. The IPCC has recently released a new report indicating that we may blow past the 1.5 Celsius temperature rise as early as 2026. That scientists have warned us that we must stay below that in order to avoid catastrophic climate change. Yes, that is correct, 2026, in just 5 years. To me, this puts a red line around the emergency that we are in. We have half a decade to bring down our emissions, to do the things in this plan. If we were to act that fast, we would have to act like we are in a life-threatening, planet-threatening, catastrophic emergency, because we are. We have had a hard time moving out of business as usual ways of planning because they are not normal and they are calming to us. The very discussion that took place last Friday about whether to change the name from emergency to crisis reflects to me exactly why we need to call it an emergency. The county manager stated that the county has too many emergencies right now. I believe all the science shows us if we do not address this quickly, climate change will produce more and more emergencies. There will be a never-ending stream of them. As it is, climate is considered by many to have brought about the pandemic, and the pandemic is increasing homelessness. This emergency threatens all life on this planet. How can we not name that for what it is? Words matter. They signal our brains. We need the language that tells us that we have a few short years to do everything we can do before we are faced with floods, forest fires, and droughts without end. Thank you for the vote you're about to make.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Patricia Holm. Please unmute yourself, relieve your video.
Yes, can you?
We can hear you well. Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, okay, great. I just want to encourage you to vote for the emergency. We are definitely in an emergency, a climate emergency, as well as other emergencies, and also to adopt the climate mitigation plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Carolyn Fredway.
Hello, I am Carolyn Treadway. I live in Lacey in Panorama. And I want to say bravo for your leadership, to you for adopting the climate mitigation plan and the interlocal agreement, which I understand will happen today, as well as the declaration. And I too would like to urge you to change the name of that declaration to climate emergency. I was trained by Al Gore in January 2007 in one of his very earliest groups of climate reality leaders. I will never forget the first 400 slides I saw from him showing what was happening already around the Earth, around our planet, even back then 14 years ago. Another chilling thing about that training was that we learned scientific predictions of worst case scenarios, which might happen by the end of this century if we couldn't change our business as usual ways of living on this earth. And here now in 2021, the majority of those worst case scenarios that might happen are already happening or have happened. I find that absolutely terrifying. What should have taken a century, according to predictions, took 20 years. I hope that frightens you as well. Then there was the day that I went out from my house across the street to pick up the mail and bring it back inside. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But it was a bad air day. I had been staying in the house because of bad air, and I didn't think it would be a problem if I went and got the mail. By the time I got back to the house, I was coughing, and I went right straight into a respiratory illness which lasted several weeks. I learned that bad air can be powerful, but more important than that, I learned that the climate crisis was not something abstract out there. It was something in me, in my own body, in my own lungs. I think every one of us needs to be impacted at that level, in the gut level or in the lung level, that this is something that is happening to you, to your loved ones, to all you hold dear. And if you're not affected now, you will be affected if it gets much worse. COVID has taught us how very connected we all are and how fragile our support systems are that make life possible. Climate change is already a threat to everything that sustains life, to our air, to our water, to our soil. It's an existential threat for the species now alive on planet Earth, including us. I call it an emergency because it is an emergency.
Ma'am, can you wrap it up? Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, so I would like you to name what it actually is so that we can act with the urgency that the situation makes imperative. So please call it a climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Kathleen Schneider. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Schneider from the City of Olympia, and I would just like to ditto everything that's been said and to say I support the passage of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Ann Mills. Please unmute yourself.
I want to live in a county where clean energy, regenerative agriculture, and sequestration of carbon is prime and primary. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Jeff Cadman, the county treasurer. I don't know if he wants to provide testimony regarding this matter. Probably not. Next, I have Ms. Susan Vanderberg. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, but I'm not speaking today.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Phyllis Farrel. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I apologize. Greetings, commissioners. My name is Phyllis Farrel, a resident of Sunwood Lakes in unincorporated Thurston County. I thank you for the opportunity and urge you to amend the climate crisis declaration and call the situation what it is, a climate emergency. We are running out of time to meet our targets, and we need to address this as an emergency. A declaration of climate emergency would be more consistent with the other jurisdiction declarations as well. When I retired and got involved in climate work, I realized I couldn't do a lot about what happens in China or Washington, D.C., but I can try to influence what happens here. The TCMP is an ambitious plan of 72 local actions, which addresses our responsibilities to do our part. I urge you to adopt the plan and help fund the solutions that will address climate impacts affecting our communities and provide green economy, jobs, and benefits. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Tom Crawford. Please unmute yourself. We have 3 minutes.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Tom Crawford. I live in Olympia. I've lived in Thurston County for 32 years, including time in the unincorporated county, in Lacey, and in Tumwater. I'm also a volunteer board member and president for Thurston Climate Action Team. Thank you for considering this afternoon the recently completed Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, an interlocal agreement for implementing the plan, and a climate emergency resolution. I urge you to accept the plan and approve the interlocal agreement and the climate emergency resolution. But this will not be enough. So I'd like to look with you this afternoon beyond these documents. We recently celebrated the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year, on that occasion, I read Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. He wrote that letter to the clergy of Birmingham, Alabama, who criticized him for the nonviolent protests he led there. In the letter, Dr. King argued the need for immediate action and for challenging unjust laws. The climate crisis is urgent. It requires immediate action. The automatic Earth tells us that consequences of our actions are just not up for negotiation. Today, climate change is causing hunger, flooding, death, uncontrolled wildfires, hurricanes, homelessness, immigration, and many other very negative effects to human beings, to our brothers and sisters around the world. These things may not be visible to us every day, but they are happening every day. If an apartment is on fire, it's an emergency for everyone in the building. The fire crew responds immediately. Traffic gets out of the way. There's no waiting for feasibility studies, economic impact analyses, and so forth. So I urge you to use these three documents, the TCMP, the interlocal agreement, and the climate emergency resolution, as a starting place for immediate action and for inventing new ways of decision-making and working together. We can create a new future for ourselves, a just and thriving community for people and the planet. So let's start this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Aaron Dumas. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you very much. My name is Aaron Dumas. I'm a resident of Lacey, and I'm here to support your acceptance of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, and I really do want to thank you, and I applaud your commitment to taking this step. I'm also here to urge you today to please pass the Climate Crisis Declaration, but this should be called the Climate Emergency Declaration because this is an emergency. We need to take action now. Climate change, is an emergency, the worst that we will probably collectively ever face. And it will in turn lead to more crises and worsening of other crises that we face as well. Action needs to be taken now because every day of inaction puts the burden not just on us, but probably worse on future generations. And so to fully address this emergency, you will need to enact all the items of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. And now, an argument often is that there are costs to implementation, but these costs will pale in comparison to the cost of inaction. There are good signs that federal stimulus money is coming, and by accepting both the TCMP and declaring a climate emergency today, you're positioning the county to receive those funds and take action immediately. We're not alone in this fight. We have the momentum and the backing of the governor, every level of the state, at the federal level, and from jurisdictions across the state, across the country, and across the world. So today, by accepting both the TCMP and the Climate Emergency Declaration, you are demonstrating true leadership. And again, I'd like to thank you for doing that. And you'd be also paving the way for a greener economy here in Thurston County, a stronger Thurston County, and a more equitable Thurston County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Barbara Scavezzi. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Barb Scavezzi, and I want to thank you for letting me speak. I'm a volunteer with the Thurston Climate Action Team. I had been a TCAT employee, but I retired last May so I could spend more time with my 5 young grandchildren. Well, this hasn't happened because of COVID. This pandemic is creating chaos and devastation in everybody's lives, and it's a preview of the long-term devastation we can expect from this climate emergency if we don't address it now. I am worried about the future of my grandkids. They deserve to inherit a livable planet with clean air and water and plenty of food to eat, but we are running out of time to maintain a livable planet. I would like to thank you for your work on the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan and ask that you address the climate emergency by accepting it and by allocating the funds and the staff to do the hard work necessary to implement all the actions in it. This is the only way we can reach the science-based targets set forth in the plan. You may be able to take advantage of federal stimulus money that will become available to cities for COVID relief. Some of the solutions to the economic downturn from COVID are green economy solutions. We have waited too long to address this crisis, and now it has become an emergency. So please pass the climate crisis declaration and amend it to call it what it truly is, a climate emergency declaration. We must treat it with the urgency it requires and take quick and bold action. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are people in the waiting room?
Yes, I'm getting to that. Don't worry about that, ma'am. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Christina Janus.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Janus. I live in the unincorporated Steamboat Island area. I am the Government Affairs Director for the Thurston County Realtors Association, and I'm here today to read our position statement on the TCMP. The Thurston County Realtors Association recognizes the importance of coordinated and effective action to reduce the impact of climate change, and we commend the work that has been initiated by the TCMP. All citizens must take this issue seriously for the benefit and sustainability of our communities. However, we also recognize the potential harmful impact and additional burden that this may be placed on homeowners, business owners, and property owners in our communities. We must carefully balance between protecting and sustaining our environment and the economic impact on all members of these communities. Realtors have always recommended policy that incentivizes as well as outlining a very clear path to solutions rather than regulation. It is our goal and hope that we can meaningfully contribute, and we would like to continue to work with the jurisdictions towards the TCMP, that is adoptable by all members of our community to maintain this wonderful place that we like to call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Judy Olmstead. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty much here as a ditto supporter of the plan, the declaration, and the ILA, and I very much urge you to call the declaration an emergency. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Jim Lazar. Go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Jim Lazar, an Olympia resident. I moved to Thurston County my 44th year here. I urge you to adopt the climate mitigation plan and to adopt the resolution declaring a climate emergency. It is an emergency. This is a duty that we have to our brothers and sisters, our children, our grandchildren, and the generations yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Karen Mesmer. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want to thank the Commission for your continuing leadership in addressing this climate emergency. The Commission committed several years ago to join with the urban cities to address climate change, and I think doing this as a regional effort is especially important. The adoption of this mitigation plan is an important step, and I'm urge you to continue to do that. I want to commend your staff since they spent many hours throughout this process, and their involvement has been very supportive and has helped to craft the details of this plan, and I know they put in a lot of effort. This is a good plan. It helps to guide our actions, and we have a lot of urgent work to do. I'm personally concerned for the life of our planet, for the lives of our young people who shouldn't need to be concerned about what world they might be facing. This planning effort and your adoption of this plan and the adoption by the partners gives me some real hope. And I think we need to continue to take very bold action to prove to our young people that they can also have that hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Betty Hauser. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Betty Hauser, I'm a resident of Olympia. I've been here for, 40 some years, Western Washington all my life. I urge you to pass the climate mitigation plan as well as a declaration of climate emergency. It is of the utmost importance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Jessie King. 3 minutes. Unmute yourself, please. Oh, Public Works. Never mind. Next, I have Mr. Frank Turner. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Frank Turner from Olympia. I ask you today to vote to adopt the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan and to pass a climate emergency resolution. The majority of Americans of all stripes recognize climate change as a problem that we have caused as humans and one that we must fix. In Thurston County, we're subject to rising sea level, contributing way upstream to flooding. We have wildfire smoke. When will it be our turn to experience a wildfire emergency here? The Climate Mitigation Plan is an essential tool in our toolbox. It's the blueprint for our future home. I'm really proud, I'm very pleased that my very own county commissioners have supported the development of this plan. The climate emergency resolution will focus on the task ahead. I and the majority of my community urge you to vote yes to adopt the climate mitigation plan that you have supported throughout its development and adopt as well the climate emergency resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Barack Gale. Unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes, sir. Okay, we'll come back to you. Next on the screen, I have Mr. John Pettit. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I live in East Olympia, Washington. And I also have some comments in regards to the climate mitigation plan and the climate crisis resolution. Today I was a little concerned because up until this point, within the last 40 minutes, the actual resolution that you're going to be signing has not actually been available to the public to review, which is a little sad because it would appear to be almost like held away from us for our chance to actually see it. I've maintained the documents so I can certainly show that later on. You know that I'm very adamant about having full disclosure and transparency, and hopefully we can continue to resolve some of that issue. I think it's important that it be noted, because no one up there is going to make comments, but from the commissioner standpoint, you have certain obligations by law that you have to fulfill. And the designation of an emergency is a budgetary element as required by law, and that is for the purpose of changing your budget from a current budget level to an additional expense above for an unforeseen element. You already approved the financing and budget for this process through this last budget cycle. You have already been ahead of the game. It is appropriate to call it a crisis. We all agree on that. And I'm actually kind of glad to see the things moving forward. One of the things which we'll be talking about in the near future is something called biomass, which is a wood, which is considered to be a carbon neutral element that people should be able to use it. Oftentimes, we have actually created a bigger carbon footprint because of our regulatory actions within the county. So I hope to present you some more information regarding that. I applaud the idea that we're moving forward, but I think we can find solutions other than just merely solar or wind power, which neither one has proved to be effective here in Thurston County, as if it had been, true commercial applications would have been performed, and the only solar power down by Centralia has yet to actually show any results according to the EPA. So look forward to it. Of go ahead and approve your crisis plan, emergency, I shouldn't call it emergency, your climate crisis. It's the appropriate language by law for what you're going to pass. I'm glad you've already taken action towards this, and the public should get to know more that you've already taken very aggressive action, even beyond what some people would like, in supporting the climate program. And I appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have, last name is truncated, so I assume it's Marianne Thompson.
It's Marianne Tompkins, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, last name is truncated in my screen.
I know, everybody says it, or they call it pumpkins, it's anyway. Hey, I just want to say I support adoption of the plan and the declaration. That's it, thank you.
Go ahead.
Did you not hear me?
Yes, we heard you.
Okay, thanks.
She's done, Ramiro.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Mr. John Season. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is John Cezanne, and I'm a resident of unincorporated Thurston County near Olympia. I support the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan and the declaration of a climate emergency. Action to mitigate the damage done to the planet by global warming is urgent. There is no time to lose. I have 3 grandchildren in the county under the age of 6. I'm very concerned that the environment that they will inherit from our generation will be a sustainable one. The cost of moving forward boldly to implement mitigation strategies now is far less than if we procrastinate. Many of the current problems that we have, such as homelessness, pandemic disease, and immigration flows, will only get worse if we don't take action now. The Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan gives us a framework to address these problems in a unified and constructive way. Our federal and state governments are moving forward in the fight to mitigate global warming, as are many corporations in the private sector. Even GM recently announced that they will be building electric vehicles by 2035. We need to prepare to act swiftly to work in concert with governmental and corporate entities to meet the climate challenge. Having the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan in place is essential to this effort. It is our moral duty to do our share in fighting to mitigate the ravages of global warming by implementing all the items in the plan, and only for the sake of not only for the sake of our children and grandchildren, but also for all living beings on Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Miss Karina Lee. You have 2 minutes.
I'm Karina. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm 16 years old. I'm here in support of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan and with a request that you amend the name of your declaration to the Climate Emergency Declaration. Thank you for passing this plan. It's a solid step in the direction of climate justice for my generation and those who come after me. As a young person, I am constantly aware of our climate crisis worsening. I am constantly aware that we are not doing enough. I cannot vote and often feel powerless in making the decisions that will decide my fate far more than they will yours. So knowing that you are passing this plan gives me hope. Thank you. However, just passing the TCMP is not enough. I'm concerned about the titling of your declaration. This is an emergency and we need to treat it as such. This is an emergency because we have not done enough, because soon it will be too late to make the changes we need to make. This is an emergency because people my age are afraid that we will not have a future. This is an emergency because around the world, people are already facing the effects of the climate crisis. You may not feel the terror that I do when you consider the effects of the climate emergency. I know you have other things to consider and other priorities, but it is not you who will face the worst of it. It is people like me, young people whose future is hanging by a thread, and people who are already experiencing what we are afraid of. Amend the name of your declaration to the Climate Emergency Declaration. My generation is watching you. Please don't fail us.
Thank you. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Roy Treadway. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Roy Treadway, a resident of Lacey. About 2 or 3 days ago, I sent emails to each of the 3 commissioners indicating my reasons for supporting the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan and the interlocal agreement, and I don't need to repeat those now. So essentially, my message is please adopt the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, the interlocal agreement, and declare a climate emergency as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Esther Cronenberg. Please unmute yourself, have 3 minutes. Ms. Cronenberg? I'll come back. Next on the screen, I have Mr. Jeffrey Miller. You have 3 minutes, unmute yourself. Next on the screen, I have Ms. Jean Must. You got 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Jean from just outside of Tenino, and I am here to support the adoption of the TCMP and to declare a climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back to Mr. Baragale. Would you like to testify this afternoon? No. Next, Ms. Esther Cronenberg, would you like to provide testimony this afternoon? And I think I have exhausted all the members of the public on the Zoom meeting. Let me go to the conference call. Good afternoon for those members of the public who have joined us via conference call this afternoon, and if you would like to provide public testimony this afternoon in front of the Board of County Commissioners, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. State your name, where you reside in the county. One more time, for those members of the public who have joined us this afternoon via conference call, if you would like to provide public testimony this afternoon, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 3 minutes. None, sir.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody who provided testimony today. That includes opportunity for the public to address the board. We'll move now to item 2, county manager's update.
Yeah, I think I have a couple updates for you, commissioners. First of all, I know you had this morning a COVID-19 briefing, but I'd like to highlight a couple of clinics that occurred this past weekend. One was on Friday, the Salvation Army. On Saturday was at the RAC in Lacey, and on Sunday was at the Virgil Carson Senior Center. I was able to attend for a few minutes at the RAC on Saturday, and I was just so impressed on the logistics behind the organization and the amount of volunteers they have participating on all the clinics. So I'd just like to take the time to thank Providence, St. Peter's Hospital, the Senior Services of South Sound particularly, and all the volunteers, and all the community partners, and all the county staff that have participated to make those clinics successful. Overall, we issue close to 1,400 vaccines in those 3 days. So I'd just like to express my appreciation again, to the community for their patience, to the partners, they have helped us to move through, and to all the volunteers to make these clinics a successful events. The next item that I'd like to highlight is it is related to the weather conditions that may be coming at the end of this week. There's a little bit of different models, I believe. We might be receiving getting snow on Thursday, and most likely on Saturday. So Public Works has continued to monitor the weather conditions. However, they have already started applying a de-icer proactively in all the major arterials and collectors. We have already kept a de-icer storage of maximum capacity of 40,000 gallons, just to make sure that we don't run out. We have already sent to de-icers and sander and plows to all the bullpen areas on the 4 corners of the county. We have already ready to load the sanders and trucks just to make sure they will spread sand as we need it. Also, we have beginning the work to move into a 24-hour operations if needed. Also, internal facilities and central services have also taken steps to make sure that we are prepared for the weather conditions that might be coming at the end of this week. Internal to facilities, we have already started applying the icer in all the sidewalks and walking areas of the county sites, county buildings. We have already staging the snow removal equipment in all sites. We have been applying liquid de-icer also in parking lots. And also we'll continue to monitor the events. Also our ER&R, which is our fleet, has been in close coordination with Public Works just to make sure that we provide the support to all the equipment during this potential weather emergency condition. So the solid waste and the facilities at the work at the Waste and Recovery Center, we're also trying to make sure that those operations continue to operate during those weather conditions. And that's all I have for you as my report. Any questions?
Questions from the board on those items?
For the vaccination clinics, I would also like to give a shout out to Intercity Transit, who helped transport several seniors to and from the Virgil Clark Senior Center this Sunday. So thank you to them.
Thank you.
Mr. Edwards, anything?
No, sir, not at this time.
I'll just let folks know vaccines obviously a very hot topic, and directly following this board meeting, we'll go into a Board of Health meeting and there will be further discussion of that issue. So folks can stick around or tune in to that for more information there. Next is consent items 3A through 3C. Is there a motion?
Yes, I would move to approve consent items A through C.
Second.
You moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Consent items 3A through 3C are approved. That moves us to department items number 4. And these are the 3 items that we've heard a lot of public comment about today. They're the 3 related items related to the climate mitigation plan. And we will take separate votes on each piece. But perhaps we can get an overview and have board questions on the bundle since they're related to each other. I'll let County Manager set this up, and we do have staff from Public Health to answer questions.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. For you, item 4A, for your consideration is a resolution to declare a climate crisis here in Thurston County. As a matter of background, climate change has become an existential crisis, posing one of the most serious threats to Earth's survival and humanity's existence. Global warming and climate change are increasing global temperatures more rapidly than previously anticipated. Current human activities and technology are accelerating the pace of the increase of the global temperatures. In 2015 and 2016, world leaders from more than 175 countries recognized the threat of the climate change and the urgent need to combat by developing and adopting the Paris Agreement. In 2018, the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 15644, adopting common targets to reduce county-wide greenhouse gases emissions 45% below the 2015 levels by 2030 and 85% below 2015 levels by 2050. In 2018, the United States' fourth National Climate Assessment made clear that climate change will wreak havoc across the United States, and at the current pace and scale of national climate action is not sufficient to avert damage to the economy, environment, and human health. Youth will inherit the legacy of our decisions on climate, and youth from diverse backgrounds and are organizing locally and worldwide to demand climate justice and to demand government's actions to mitigate this catastrophe. And we have seen a testimony today in that regard. Through the United States, communities of color, low-wage workers, and low-income communities have been on the fourth line of the long-standing environmental injustices and have historically borne the brunt of the fossil fuel economy. Our Pacific Northwest and orcas are dying at a rate that threatens extinction from the warming of the oceans and rivers, contributing to the pollution in Puget Sound. Our mountains are losing snowpack, our glaciers from the warming of the earth are melting, and we're losing our forests to climate-induced forest fires. Coastal cities face flooding from sea level rise, and both for those have negative impact to Washington State's economy. Thurston County, having joined the local jurisdictions of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater in a cooperative effort to accelerate immediate and near-term regional to approve mitigation and adopting actions. Through our adopted mitigation plans that might be coming before you this afternoon. This afternoon, the Board of County Commissioners may consider declare the state of climate crisis, given that the climate crisis poses an urgent threat to the health and well-being of our cities, region, state, country, world. Also, the Thurston County is asking business, nonprofits, academia, large institutions, faith-based organizations, and residents to also rise to the challenge to this crisis by committing to help further Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. Also, Thurston County will develop and adopt a lens of climate change and climate equity for all county staff and departments engaged in planning, zoning, permitting, budgeting, and expenditures. And also, the Board of County Commissioners have committed funding in 2021 and will continue to commit future funding to implement the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan that is becoming for you next. Chris Hawkins has been represented Thurston County in this effort, and I will give the floor if he wants to add any additional information.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you, County Manager Chavez, and Chris Hawkins, Program Manager over Education and Prevention at the Thurston County Public Health and Social Services Department, and very happy and proud of our community to be here today to support you in considering this pair of resolutions and the interlocal agreement to continue to work together with the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater towards these science-based targets. Just would add that I think Commissioner Chavez or County Manager Chavez covered it very well, that this is a very substantial and existential issue that we're facing. It is real, climate change. It's having impacts in our community already. And the emissions of greenhouse gases from our activities here in Thurston County, our energy use in our homes and our vehicles is part of what creates the climate change that we're experiencing. We cause this and we can do something about it. And that means reducing our emissions. And we need to work together as local governments and as a community to do our part in that. So County Manager Chavez has mentioned the science-based targets already. And I would just add that this climate crisis or climate emergency declaration has been brought forward, I think, in due in large part to many comments from the community, concern on the part of residents here, members of the public, that the situation is worsening and the projections of climate change's impacts are getting to the point where our community needs to act very swiftly to address the prevention of climate change, prevention of these worsening effects. And for that reason, and for acknowledging, I think, more completely the picture of unevenly distributed impacts of climate change, the equity impacts, that's why this resolution about a climate crisis is before you, and is similar to the climate emergency resolutions in other local jurisdictions. So that's been included for your consideration. We're recommending adoption of that, as well as the resolution accepting the climate mitigation plan, which has been 2 to 3 years in the works, and a lot of thorough involvement from the community and among county and local staff from other jurisdictions. And then finally, an interlocal agreement that shows the continued commitment of the county to implement this plan, to put it into action as quickly as we can. Thank you very much for your attention to this, and look forward to hearing your decision.
Questions for Chris regarding the 3 items?
Questions or comments?
First questions.
No questions.
Nope. Chris, can you just have one question? The concept, the concept of an emergency resolution to go with the interlocal agreement and the adoption of the plan, when did that come into the process? Has that always been something that was planned to do, or did that come up just here in the last month or so?
Well, I think the first that I was hearing of that climate emergency declaration was in one of the last meetings of the Climate Mitigation Plan Steering Committee. It was brought forward by one of the other jurisdictions' council members for consideration by the steering committee. And at that point, it was tabled in favor of moving forward to complete the approval of the climate mitigation plan, and left to each jurisdiction, because that's the appropriate place for that climate emergency resolution to be acted upon, was to go to each of the jurisdictions for their consideration by their governing bodies. So it was in the latter part of 2020 that came about. I believe it was late November, potentially early December. And but I guess it kind of is a culmination, though, of continued public engagement on this issue, where there's been a high degree of concern and expressions of, we're not acting quickly enough. We need to address this urgent matter for our community to get that climate stabilization to happen.
Okay. I think that the right thing to do maybe would be, we'll address these 3 action items in sequence, but let's just have, I know the commissioners probably have comments, so let's consolidate the comments as to the 3 pieces of this, and then we can take the actions appropriately. So I'll start with Commissioner Mejia, if she has anything.
So the word crisis and emergency, it's one that I've been debating quite a lot after our planning session, and how we should proceed with it. And right now I'm leaning of, just because we have multiple emergencies, this does not make it any less of an emergency. And I'm hoping that my seatmates will consider changing the crisis to emergency declaration. Those are my comments. I've done a lot of research on what our jurisdictions have done, but also what the tribes have done. And one of the reasons I supported the emergency declaration to start off with was because it offered a lens of equity, and it brought an extra layer, I felt, that the mitigation plan was missing. So I liked where this came from. So I'm not sure if my seatmates would consider changing this from a crisis to an emergency declaration.
When we get to that action item, you could, if you can make a motion to make an amendment, and maybe you should handle it that way.
Motion is made.
Commissioner Edwards, any general comments on these 3 items?
Yes. I want to follow up on a comment that one of the climate action team members brought up. Tom Crawford mentioned, if your house is on fire, it's an emergency. But to the community as a whole, it's not an emergency until your town is on fire. When your town is on fire, then you've got a real emergency on your hands. And I believe we can always do better. And unfortunately, I'm not sure the world is looking at this as if our community is on fire. When you allow China, and India, and Pakistan, and Mexico, and British Columbia to dump raw sewage into the ocean unabated, and our own timber industry dumps millions of tons of chemicals into the Puget Sound through their fertilization programs, I don't think we're taking this seriously. We can put out the fire here locally if the wind didn't blow and we didn't have to worry about the planet's atmosphere. But unfortunately, when these third world countries are allowed to continue with coal-fired plants, and all we're going to do is put something in place to drive up the cost of housing, because that's the bottom line of what we would do to ourselves by implementing that against ourselves, when we should be calling for the whole planet to be participating in the same way. So, like I say, we can always do better. We have many different cleaner forms of energy that we could get into. And I'm going to be supportive of this because it is a step in the right direction, but I think it's a baby step in that direction. And we should be holding others in our world community to a much higher standard instead of penalizing our own citizens while others get a free pass. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. I'm going to make a few comments on the package of actions today. You know, I'm entering my third year on the board, and so 2 years basically of service. And you know, there's only a few decisions. We do a lot of routine business. Passing the budget's really important. We do a lot of contract work and making county government work and getting people hired and shifting pay classifications. But you know, there's only a few decisions that really stand out to me during my first 2 years as having long-term significance to this county, and that I have a lot of pride in you know, my position on those things. Being able to cast a deciding vote in the protection of Rocky Prairie last year, being able to cast a vote to completely transform our transportation system as a board member on the Intercity Transit Board to go to the zero fare model. Those are two that stand out to me, and this is a third one because this is something that everybody, I ditto everybody that has commented about the seriousness of this matter. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to run for county commissioner. So I'm very proud to be able to do this. We've gotten a ton of community input, and I don't know, I've got this, you can see this butterfly. The commissioners received a slew of these butterflies from people, from youth in the community. And on the back of the butterflies were handwritten letters from members of the of our local high schools and youth groups. This one, you know, there were several, but I kept this one. It's from last year's senior at Capitol High School. And it's just kind of guiding, you know, the seriousness of this work. I'm just going to quote something out of here. This young lady says, "The climate crisis is an immediate threat to the world's environmental stability. Of course, the world is currently experiencing another immediate crisis with COVID-19. Around the world, people are responding by making masks, conducting vaccine research, and dramatically changing their lifestyle by staying home." And this is something I received back last June. "With this mass response, I am confident that we will get through this. However, the climate crisis is just as big of an issue, if not bigger, and the lack of response is alarming. I hope that when the world overcomes COVID-19 in the near future, we will address the climate crisis with the same urgency as we are addressing COVID-19. So thankfully, the Board of County Commissioners is not waiting for the end of COVID-19. We've been working on the climate mitigation plan. We funded, and this is not something that's in today's packet, but I want everybody on this call to know, because it's perhaps the most significant thing that we've done, and not to compete with the other jurisdictions, but I think we've gone out in front of our municipal partners in allocating over $300,000 for 2021 toward implementation of this plan. which was a number that was arrived at through help from and recommendation of TCAT, the Climate Action Team. So again, we go on all day about how serious this is, but just one more thing that crossed my desk this last week was the governor's task force on salmon and how some of our salmon populations are on the brink of extinction. And I serve on the Salmon Recovery Council for South Sound, and this is just I'm emphasizing this because it shows how interconnected climate change is to so many other things, and how many positive effects, ripple effects, and other things we can have by taking bold action on climate. Climate is not just climate, as one of the state legislatures has tried to make clear. So, for example, in this article, it says climate change is a major threat to salmon, according to the governor's report. The phenomenon has been warming Washington's air by 0.15 degrees every decade over the past 100 years, and the trend is expected to speed up in the future, according to the report. The warming air trickles down to warming water in rivers, which can kill salmon. Without actions to address impacts in climate change, there will be fewer salmon and fewer rivers where they can survive, according to the report. If Washington doesn't do more to help its wild salmon populations, some could soon disappear for good. The watershed State of the Salmon report found that 10 of the 14 threatened or endangered salmon and steelhead runs are not improving, and 5 of them are in crisis. So that's all kind of a background from where I'm coming from, and you know, I will be representing, the board determined that I will be the representative to the county on the phase 3 implementation steering committee. I have not been, I applaud Commissioner Edwards' work on the phase 2. I helped on a subcommittee to help develop the phase 3 agreement. I'm going to take that work over, and I can pledge to every person on this call that I will work hard and push hard for, and again, also being mindful of what the realtor representative said about engaging our community partners and making sure that we do this in the most sensible way, but aggressive way that we can to get real results for our county. So with all of that, I am ready to entertain a motion or an amendment to a motion on 4A, which is the resolution for crisis, as it's titled now, Crisis of Climate Change Affecting Our Community.
Chair?
Yes.
I'm prepared to make a motion from the script, basically, for 4A. Okay. In all due respect to seatmates' opinions and everything, I agree this is a tough situation, but it's a small step, and I think it's in the right direction. I would like to move to adopt a resolution declaring a climate crisis in Thurston County, Washington.
So if there is a second, then it will be introducing an amendment at that time. So,
second.
Yep. So Commissioner, I believe you have an amendment.
I would like to rename this to declaring a climate emergency in Thurston County.
So you would like to, perhaps the amendment is to change the crisis to an emergency?
Correct.
Throughout the whole resolution?
Yes.
Is there a second on that?
Is there a second? I will second that motion. Been moved and seconded. We can now have discussion on the amendment. Is there any discussion regarding the amendment? Just the proposal to change crisis to emergency. Commissioner Mejia, you made, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I was talked out of emergency to begin with, so I have the capacity to be talked back into it, and hearing the significance that the community feels and some of the original concerns that I had. I was resistant at first, and I was talked into it, and I say that I was convinced of some of the value, and then so I've kind of gone back and forth. We certainly had a robust discussion, and I think some of the people on this call listened to it at a planning session where we discussed it. The county does have an emergency with regarding the homelessness, opioid epidemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're discussing a public health resolution of an emergency regarding racial inequity and racism as a public health crisis. So those were some of the considerations and the wording that I just thought the public might want to be understand what the board discussed at that previous time. Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Edwards, any comment on the amendment?
Yes. I guess I would ask the county manager if we change any of the resolution, have we had the resolution up until now reviewed by legal?
Yes, sir.
And if we make a change in a major resolution like this, do we need to have that reviewed by legal for, I don't know, I guess just simplistic purposes of a review that we might be missing something?
Well, procedurally, the board never signs a resolution without the signature of an attorney.
That's what I'm getting to.
So if the amendment passes to change this resolution from a crisis to an emergency, I will draft a resolution to reflect that, and the attorney will sign that before you take an action, signing it.
So is there a reason to expedite this ahead of the normal process of changing the resolution to declare an emergency as proposed and voting on it next week, for an example? Are we up against some kind of a time frame that, because if we don't have it reviewed by legal before, I mean, we're already voting on something and just kind of going it alone, so to speak, without that proper review. And I've stated that I am in favor of moving ahead with this resolution. I'm obviously more inclined to go with the crisis, but it's not necessarily a hill I'm willing to die on or anything. And I understand my seatmates' positions on it, but we had made a decision on this. And I will say citizens have made very good arguments today. So I just question the process, I guess, as much as anything. Would you care to comment on that?
So what you're considering is an amendment to change the word crisis with emergency. The fundamental of the resolution will not change. What it will change is that word from crisis to emergency. It's not like we're going to redraft another resolution to declare an emergency. The resolution itself stands. Is what you consider is just changing the word from crisis to an emergency. But the resolution, that's what it will change before you sign it,
Yes.
if this amendment passes.
Is that change going to be in one location, or is it going to be in the 8 different locations throughout the resolution? Would that fit changing? You're going to change every word from crisis to emergency? Is that basically what I'm hearing here?
Well, yeah, that's the amendment that you're considering.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
every
direction
word,
that you're sending.
or just the resolution that we're creating let's see, I guess, I mean, we're talking about changing it from a crisis to an emergency. And in doing so, are we affecting anything else on all those other changes of the word crisis to emergency? I don't know how many places it's in here, but it's in here.
It's in here 4 times is what I'm seeing.
4 times, is it?
Yeah, and just to give if I may, just to give an example, Commissioner, if the amendment moves through it, the resolution will change from a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners declaring a climate crisis to a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners declaring a climate emergency.
Okay, I mean, that's So that's going to be the change.
Really, you're entertaining an amendment from Commissioner Mejia on changing a word.
Okay.
One word.
Okay, well, we've got a motion and a second for an amendment.
So I will call for a vote on the amendment, unless there's further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay. And then now we're going to take a vote on the resolution itself, right?
Right, the resolution's been amended, is now a resolution of climate emergency, and we're going to take a vote on that motion, that resolution as amended.
Yeah, as amended.
Okay.
All in favor? Say, is there any further discussion regarding the resolution as amended?
No, sir.
No, sir.
None here. All in favor, say aye.
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 And that carries 3-0. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4B, a resolution accepting the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. And we've kind of reviewed this, so Ramiro, if you want to kind of summarize it, but then I'll call for
Yeah, just briefly summarize the item, Commissioners. That's the next step based on the item that you just approved with modifying the language. As a matter of, I'd just like to read this one part of the objective that the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan has. Because this has been a collaborative effort between Thurston County, the cities of Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and also the Thurston Regional Planning Council, TRPC. It's been in the works really for a couple of years now, and finally has come to the point of you considering approving the plan, which is, in my opinion, that creates the umbrella as to what we need to do to address climate change. But let me just read you, and this is for the benefit of the public, the vision of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. The Thurston County, Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and neighboring tribes recognize the urgent threat and opportunity that climate change poses in our community's economy, public health, public safety, and environment. We will work together to identify and boldly implement the most effective, efficient, and equitable actions to reduce locally generated greenhouse gas emissions to protect current and future generations from the most severe impact of climate change. I just want to highlight the vision of the climate change because I believe that encompasses the intent of this plan.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion regarding this resolution?
Are we ready for a motion? Is that what I'm hearing from the chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I make my motion, I will say that I really think without holding the rest of the world community to the same standards that we're holding ourselves to, I think it's going to be a tough time getting there. And I think we should take a stronger stand. But considering we are where we are, I would like to move to adopt a resolution accepting the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, a partnership effort of Thurston County with local cities and communities, aimed at reducing community-wide greenhouse gas emissions 45% below 2015 levels by the year 2030 and 85% below 2015 levels by the year 2050.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this resolution?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Our motion carries 3-0. Thurston County has adopted the climate mitigation plan. Thank you to my seatmates for that. Item 4C is interlocal agreement among Thurston County and the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater for Phase 3 implementation regarding the TCMP that has just been adopted.
So this particular amendment is Phase 3 of the implementation plan. The county, in coordination with the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater, as well as with the Regional Planning Council, have been getting into interlocal agreements starting with Phase 1. Phase 2 is now Phase 3. Phase 2 was mainly in cooperation to develop the climate mitigation plan, which we just approved. Now, phase 3 is getting into the implementation of the plan itself. This particular phase 3 includes a commitment of $47,184 from the county, and that is also the other partner jurisdictions will participate at the same amount. This particular interlocal agreement takes us for the next 12 months, in which we are going to start developing roles and responsibilities as to how we're going to be systematically implementing all the many different actions highlighted on the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. And again, this is just one first step on the implementation, many more to come, and many more coordinations that need to occur. But I believe, at least from my point of view, I'm very excited and very proud of the board to take in those steps today. One is declaring the emergency. Second is the approving the plan. And third, getting to work by approving the phase 3 of the implementation in local agreement.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I would move to approve the interlocal agreement for phase 3 implementation of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan with partner cities of Lacey, City of Olympia, City of Tumwater, for up to $47,184 annually, and authorize the county manager to sign the agreement and any future amendments that do not change the dollar amount or duration of the agreement by more than 10%.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this phase 3 agreement?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to make a comment now. It's 3:29. Board of Health is obviously not going to start as scheduled at 3:30. We have several items of business, but hopefully we can move through them pretty quickly. And again, thanks to all the public who tuned in. I know there were a lot of interest in those items that we just covered. Next item is 5, Community Planning and Economic Development, 2021 Thurston County Heritage Grant Award.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair.
Go ahead, Chair.
Sorry about that.
We'll start with Ramiro and then he'll pass it to Jim.
Yeah, this is, Commissioners, for your consideration is to approve the 2021 Thurston County Heritage Grants Awards, as well as extending some awards from 2019 and 2020. You receive a briefing on this. I believe that is this is the intent of the board to consider this as a final action. And Jeremy has been managing this particular grant for a couple of years and give you additional perspective today.
Good afternoon, Chair Menzer, Commissioners. Jeremy Davis with Thurston County Community Planning and Economic Development. Yes, the board discussed this at a January 14th board briefing. The proposed item is to approve the 2021 Heritage Program Grant Awards. The grant was established using $1 from each $5 document recording fee to further historic preservation activities in Thurston County. The 2021 grant awards include 9 grant awards for $5,000 each, totaling $45,000. The grant awardees for this year include the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum, the City of Lacey and Lacey Museum, the Gay Community Club, the South Thurston County Historical Society, City of Tenino, and Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance, as well as the Olympia Tumwater Foundation, the Rachel Corey Foundation for Peace and Justice, and Tenino VFW Post 5758. And of note, the VFW Post project is to actually reestablish the honor roll plaque honoring our county's veterans in the city of Tenino from 1913 to 2012. The request to extend the program grant awards for the 2020 grants includes 5 grants totaling $35,162. Of the $75,000 or so award that was awarded in 2020, $38,120 has already been expended. The 5 grant awardees include the Olympia Tumwater Foundation, the Sandman Foundation, Window Seat Media, the Northwest Playwrights Alliance, and the City of Tumwater. The 2 2020 grant awardees, where we'd be extending their deadline to December of this year, include the Northwest Institute for Leadership and Change. And that is also a particular note because that will be cataloging the oral history for African American citizens in Thurston County from 1950 to 1975. This was a noted project in the Olympians' review of the county's Water, Woods, and Prairies book as being an important project to complete, to catalog that history and make sure we get it down before those folks pass away. And then the final project for 2019 is the YWCA Olympia, and this is sending their records and materials for to the Washington State Historical Society, specifically the Washington Women's History Consortium. So all told, we'll be renewing 5 grants, or I should say extending 5 grants for 2020, 2 grants for 2019, and then awarding 9 grants totaling $45,000 for the 2021 grant period. The Heritage Program grant awards implement strategic plan initiatives 6 and 7, and 6 is proactively shaping a strong, diverse economy that provides equitable access and opportunity. And 7 is balancing development with the preservation of the county's rural character, natural spaces and natural areas and open spaces. And I've also note the Historic Commission met at their January meeting and made the recommendation that all 9 2021 applicants be awarded. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Any questions from the board?
No, sir.
No questions.
I don't have any either. Is there a motion?
Yes. I would move, it's kind of long. I'm trying to hurry this along. And I notice there's a bunch of long motions here coming up. So anyway, I would move to approve the 2021 Thurston County Heritage Grant Awards and accept the Historic Commission's recommendation, including Olympia Historical Society, Biggle House Museum, City of Lacey Museum, Gate Community Club, South Thurston County Historical Society, City of Tenino, Olympia Arts and Heritage Alliance, Olympia Tumwater Foundation, Rachel Corey Foundation of Peace and Justice, and Tenino Veterans of Foreign War Post 5758 for a total of $45,000, and to approve extensions for the 2019 and 2020 grant awards to December 30th, 2021 due to COVID-19, and authorize the Community Planning and Economic Development Director to execute 2021 grant award contracts and amendments to 2019 and 2020 grant award contracts.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to say that I think it was Commissioner Edwards that asked for more details on the description. So,
touche.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right. Let's move to item 6, emergency services. Medic 1 Fire Agency COVID-19 high probability unit contracts.
Yeah, Commissioners, you reviewed this item a couple of occasions. This particular item is for you to consider a contract to build capability to continue to respond to the COVID-19 emergency. Kurt Harding will briefly walk you through this item in a little more detail.
Kurt, you're getting us in the mood here. You're back across.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kurt Hardin, Director of Emergency Services. This contract is a contract with all 12 county fire agencies to create a surge capability for EMS transport services in the event that those transport services are overwhelmed during the pandemic. This maximizes the use of county emergency medical services personnel and preserves the use of PPE. This is also a mechanism that allows us to request reimbursement from FEMA for eligible costs under the pandemic for this particular action. This contract is only activated if needed, and we anticipate the potential cost to go up to $240,000. The EMS Council recommended approval of these contracts to the Board of County Commissioners, and the funding comes out of the Medic 1 fund.
Any questions for Kurt from the board?
No, sir.
Kurt, you did mention, and this is just for clarification, that this could be FEMA could pay into this. Is that correct?
That's correct. It could potentially be an eligible cost under the pandemic. And so if we activate the contract due to the surge requirement, we will then file for reimbursement under FEMA.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I would move to approve the high probability unit contracts for COVID-19 response with all 12 fire agencies and authorize the Director of Emergency Services to sign the agreements for up to $240,000, as well as future amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, Commissioners.
We're up to item 7 on today's agenda. Public Health and Social Services. 7A is waiver of competitive solicitation and amendment to extend the Thurston County Chamber Foundation Thurston Thrives contract for 1 year, 2021.
Yeah, Commissioners, for your consideration is to extend the contract that we have with Thurston Community Found. Sorry, excuse me. I'm reading the wrong item. Is for you to extend the contract with the Thurston County Chamber Foundation. This is the 3rd year that we have this contract, Commissioners. In this particular amendment, number 2, it includes the same dollar amount but changes some of the scope of work related to this contract. Chris Hawkins is going to walk you through briefly in more detail about this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Hawkins here, Thurston County Public Health and Social Services Program Manager. Just wanted to let you know that this is the same effort that we've been undertaking over the past, actually more than the last 3 years, but in the current form, this contract is with the Chamber Foundation to provide backbone support for Thurston Thrives. That includes coordinating a coordinating council composed of multiple sectors, not just local government, but education, nonprofit action team leads, philanthropy, and business community. And this effort is to basically aimed at improving our community's health over the long haul, with action going on in multiple areas, including one that you just were spending a lot of time on, climate and clean energy, but also housing, built environment, and economy and food, among several other action areas. And the Chamber does a great job coordinating that effort. Increased attention in the last couple of years is on health equity. We did a health assessment in 2019 that was informed by our health department in collaboration with the Chamber, and that led to this increased emphasis on racial equity for BIPOC communities and some of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities because of disparities in health outcomes that affect those communities here in Thurston County. And we look forward to continued work with the Chamber and those action teams to move forward on our community's health.
Questions for Chris on this item?
No questions for me.
No questions for me either. I might say we've went over this quite a bit for those folks that don't attend our work sessions.
I have one question, Chris, just a clarification. It's not really clear from the material here, but the $40,000 adding for an additional year. So it says a revised total of 120, and that's over a 3-year period, correct? I just wanted the public to understand that it's not 120,000 contributed this year, added to a previous amount. It's just adding another $40,000 a year, which is where we've been the last 2 years. Do I have that right?
Correct. This contract started in 2019, and it was $40,000 that year, and we added $40,000 to that in 2020, and another $40,000 for 2021 will bring the total value to $120,000.
Over 3 years.
Up to $120,000.
Very good. I'm ready, with that, ready for a motion.
Yes, I would move to approve a waiver of competitive solicitation under Section A9 of Policy 0201 and Amendment Number 2 to the Thurston County Chamber Foundation contract for Thurston Thrives coordination to extend the contract duration through December 31st, 2021, and add $40,000 of funding for this additional year of services for a revised total maximum contract amount of $120,000, and authorize the Public Health and Social Services Department Director to sign the amendment, as well as any future amendments that do not change the dollar amount or duration of the contract by more than 10%.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And now we go to thank you, Chris. Now we go to 7B, 2021 Public Health and Social Services Request for Proposals. Tom Webster is here, I imagine. Yes. Ramiro?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. For your consideration is to consider issuing a request for proposals for the 2021 proposals to get projects and vendors, I believe, to provide services for homeless services, affordable housing, community development, and in many different areas that will provide services to our community. This is also in relation to the Regional Housing Council. This has been a coordinating effort related to the council as well. And Tom Webster will walk you through a little more in detail some of the nuances of the many different funds this particular request for proposal will entail.
Great, thank you, Commissioners. Tom Webster, Public Health and Social Services. So yes, we have several funds that we work with, that we issue an RFP or request for proposals for to solicit applications, provide services to our community. And they fall in a couple different categories. So first, under our Affordable Housing and Homeless Services RFP, this includes federal funding such as the Home Investment Partnership Act, state funding through document recording fees, both our Affordable Housing Fund 2060 funds, as well as the Homeless Housing Fund 2163 funds as they're known. We also receive state through the State Consolidated Homeless Grant and State Housing and Essential Needs Fund. So those are all funds that make up our homeless and affordable housing request for proposals. We also have request proposals under the Human Services Fund. This is jurisdictions in Thurston County contribute 0.5% of sales tax to support local organizations that support human service activities. All those applications will be reviewed by the Regional Housing Council and then brought forth to you with recommendations for funding. We're also soliciting applications for the Community Development Block Grant Program. This is a federal program. Funding this year will be designated to the City of Tumwater under an existing memorandum of understanding. So the City of Tumwater will review those applications, the City Council, and make recommendations to this board for funding under that fund source. We're also soliciting applications under the Veterans Assistance Fund for the Veterans Emergency Shelter Program, as well as for Treatment Sales Tax Fund for those. All told, the estimated funding value is around $8.5 million of resources that are available that we're seeking applications for. I will emphasize that amount is estimated, as we're still waiting for final state and federal budgets to be approved before we know actual amounts. Our expectation is that the request for proposals will be made available beginning on February 26th, and applications will be due to the county no later than noon on Friday, April 2nd. Applications, more information about the RFP and how to apply will be available on the Public Health and Social Services website. And this is to support County Strategic Plan Initiative 3, collaboration with community partners to reduce homelessness and implement Thurston Thrives housing strategies. Happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Tom?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I would move to approve the 2021 requests for proposals for the Thurston County Public Health and Social Services Department to receive applications related to services for homeless services and affordable housing, Community Development Block Grant, Human Services Fund, Treatment Sales Tax, and Veterans Emergency Shelter Funds.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item 8, Public Works. We have 2 items. Item 8A is contract award for passage enhancement.
Yeah, Commissioners, for your consideration is for, there's two items, items 8A and 8B are related to the fish barrier removal program the board has approved over the last few years. And this is for you to consider awarding the contract for the fabrication of 3 steel bridges. That will be 8A and I believe 1 concrete culvert, 8B. Jesse King is going to walk you through the two items quickly.
Hello, Commissioners. Jesse King, Senior Civil Engineer here at Public Works. The Fish Passage Program has been around for 5 years now, and to date, the program has opened roughly 15 miles of stream habitat by removing culverts underneath the county roadways that have been identified as blockages to fish passage. There are more than 300 culverts that have been identified in the county as barriers. The Latigo Street, Chehalis Western Trail, and Gate Road projects are the next in line for the program to be constructed this summer. These projects will remove barriers to fish that have been in place for more than 75 years and will open an additional 3 miles of habitat. One of the effective strategies we've learned to employ is to purchase the structures, such as bridges and culverts, in advance of construction to save on manufacturing lead time and to allow for a more streamlined construction schedule. This is important because of the fish window, or the construction window, in which we're mandated to minimize our impacts to anadromous fish moving through the streams. That window is usually between July and September, so it's a limited construction window. And so anything that we can do to speed up the construction schedule is really helpful. These contracts will be for the manufacturing and delivery of 3 bridges and 1 culvert. Bidding for the installation and construction of these projects will happen later this spring. We are continually looking for ways to leverage county funds through grant opportunities. The Spurgeon Creek and Latigo Street and Chehalis Western Trail project is one we were successful in securing a $1.7 million grant through the Recreation and Conservation Office, Brian Abbott Salmon Restoration Fund. This grant, along with $300,000 matching county REAP funds, will be used to cover the total project cost, including 2 bridges associated with this project. The pedestrian bridge will include an overlook to encourage public engagement and education. The Gate Road project will open nearly 2 miles of habitat within the Capitol State Forest area.
Okay, any questions for Jesse on either of those projects from the board?
No, sir.
I guess I would only comment that if they want to know any more detail, they can refer back to our agenda setting meeting this morning at 9 o'clock. And that'll be on YouTube, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Move to award the contract for the fabrication of and supply of 3 steel bridges for the fish passage enhancement. Latigo Street at Spurgeon Creek and Chehalis Western Trail project. Those are project numbers 63008 and Gate Road Culvert Replacement projects, and that is number 63015, to Contech Engineered Solutions, LLC of Westchester, Ohio, for a total amount of $459,648, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract and any change orders for this project due to unforeseen conditions only, not for changes in scope, up to 10% of the contract, $45,965, or an aggregate of $505,613.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. 8B, is there a motion?
Yes, sir. As described by Mr. King from, he's the presenter of this information to us, again, all the way back we've been over this numerous times, but last time before this was at 9 o'clock this morning. Okay, I would move to award the contract to fabricate and deliver a precast concrete culvert for the Fish Passage program at Gate Road Culvert Replacement Project 63015 to H.D. Fowler Company of Tumwater, Washington, for a total amount of $93,947.04, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract and any change orders for this project due to unforeseen conditions only, not for changes in scope, up to 10% of the contract, $9,394.71, or an aggregate of $103,341.75.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. That brings us to item 9. 9A is commissioners reporting on board and work sessions. We're quite delayed here, but if there's anything needing to be reported, I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
I have nothing to report.
Commissioner Edwards.
Just the communications board meeting, and then that was Wednesday, February 3rd, Thurston Regional Planning Council, Friday, February 5th. And lots of constituent calls on our most recent activities, but including COVID and vaccine and back to school and building projects. So lots of communication, including climate mitigation. That'll be it for me. Thank you.
Very good. I'll just short circuit it. I've been working on climate issues, and as well as the resource hub project for our criminal justice system that continues to move forward productively. So there'll be more to report on that later. We'll go to item 9B, the county manager reviewing our combined schedule.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Briefly, let me walk you through your combined schedule where at least 2 commissioners will be present. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars. Those will not be part of my report. Here in a couple minutes after you conclude this meeting, you have your regular Board of Health meeting. Moving on to Wednesday, February 10th at 9 in the morning, you will have an executive session where you will have the opportunity to discuss the Open Public Meetings Act. And at noon tomorrow, Wednesday, February the 10th, you have your monthly meeting with your appointed directors. 1:30 in the afternoon, you have a taping, what is called the Meet the Commissioners. And this is located at the TC Media Studio at 440 Yager Way Southwest, Suite C. And this is not a business meeting. This is just a get to know the commissioners. And that taping will be available to the public when it's edited. Thursday, February 11th, at 9 in the morning, you have a briefing from the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council. And at 10 in the morning, you have your regular commissioners check-in, and an agenda will be posted 24 hours in advance. Nothing on your combined schedule on Friday, February the 12th. Moving on to Monday, February 15th, the courthouse the county will be closed in observance of the President's Day holiday. And then you will convene back again on Tuesday, February 16th, 9 in the morning during your regular agenda setting, where you'll be reviewing the agenda for that afternoon board meeting and the following week's meeting. That's all I have for you.
Okay, right before we adjourn, it's 3:55. Let's try to get on. It's a separate Zoom meeting for our Board of Health. We'll try to start that around 4 o'clock or within a minute or two there. And today's county commissioner meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, sir.